Let's look at an example of collecting data from a questionnaire or survey. So I have here my student survey for STA 2023, which has 5 questions. First question being the student's name. Second question being what year they're in, freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. Third question is their age. The fourth question is whether they are part-time or full-time students. And the fifth question is how many hours per week they work. So I've taken 5 students and collected their information. I've given 5 students this survey, and I've put that information into a data matrix or data frame in my spreadsheet program Excel. So this is Excel, and what I've done is for the 5 students, each column I've made one of the questions. So basically the variables are in the columns. The first variable or question was the student's name. The second variable or question was what year they're in. Now these variables have different levels. A student's name could be any of an infinite number of words, while the year that the student in can only take on 4 levels: sophomore, senior, junior, freshman. The student's age is another variable that has an infinite number of levels, infinite number of possible responses, while the next variable, whether they're part-time or full-time, only has 2 levels, either part-time or full-time. And a variable that has 2 levels is sometimes called a Bernoulli variable. The last variable is the number of hours per week they work, and that also has an infinite number of levels. So each column represents a variable or a question, while each row represents a specific observation where a single student was asked all of the questions. All right, so the first row is for Julia, who is a sophomore, age 20, that is a full-time student and works 15 hours per week, while the second observation here is Mike, who is a senior, who is age 25, is a part-time student that works 40 hours per week, and so on. So each column is a variable, each row is an observation, and the variables have a different amount of levels. So once we have all our data in this spreadsheet program in the format of a data frame where the variables are in the columns and the observations are in the rows, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to export this or save this as a CSV or comma separated values file. So to do that, I'm going to come to the file menu in Excel. I'm going to go down to save as, and to make it easy to find, I'm going to go ahead and browse here, and I'm going to save it on my desktop. So I'll know where it is. It'll be easy to find. So I'm going to choose the desktop as where I want to save it. And I'm going to name it Student Survey. And this is the important part. You see the Save As type is an Excel workbook. I want to click this drop-down box and change that to a CSV file, because what I want is a CSV comma separated values file. So I'm going to choose the CSV file here, and there it'll be saved as a CSV file. So now I'll have student survey saved on my desktop as a CSV file. So now it has a name, student survey, and it is on my desktop as a CSV. And from there, I'm going to import that CSV into Google Colab. So here's Google. I'm just going to search and find Google Colab. Oh, it's my first search, Google Colab. And here is the Google Colaboratory. So I can click on that, and it'll bring me into Google Colab. If you don't have a Google account, you'll have to create one to be able to use Google Colab. I'm going to create a new notebook. And it takes a while there to open up. Here's my new notebook. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Student Survey also. So this will be my student survey. Okay, so first things first. This is Google Colab, which allows me to type Python code. So we're going to be using Python. One of the libraries in Python that we're going to be using a lot is called Pandas, Pandas. So I'm going to import Pandas as PD. What that does is it imports that library Pandas, but it gives it the nickname PD, so I don't have to continually type Pandas. I can type PD and it'll know I'm talking about Pandas. So I'm giving it an alias. All right, so import Pandas as PD. Let me just go ahead and run that to import Pandas. All right, so Pandas has been imported. I see the check, and I'm going to go back into the same cell, and Pandas actually has a method called read CSV. So if I use the Pandas read CSV method, I will be able to import a CSV into this web-based Python environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a data frame within Python, and I'm going to call that data frame df. So the data frame's name is going to be df, and how I'm going to create that data frame is I'm going to use Pandas, and specifically the read CSV method of Pandas. So I'm going to say df is equal to, because I want this to be the definition of the data frame df. So df stands for a data frame, and to get that data frame I'm going to use Pandas. PD is what I call Pandas, that's its alias. So I type PD, then I'm going to type a dot, because now I'm going to use one of the methods of Pandas called read CSV. So it's pd.read, read, and then it's actually the second one down, read underscore CSV. You can type the whole thing, or you can just click that. I'll just type read CSV. And then you have to tell it now where the CSV that you want it to read is. So you can see here that it's looking for a file path. Well, to find the file path, I have to find where the CSV that I just created from my survey is. And in order to do that, I'm going to come over here to this little folder where my files would be. But when I open it, I notice I don't see the file I'm looking for, because what it's looking at, this is on the Google server, the Google Colab server. This isn't looking at files on my computer. So what I need to do to get it to look at the files on my computer is click this up arrow right here. Once I click that up arrow, it allows me to search my computer. So I'm looking on my computer for the one I just created, which was called Student Survey CSV. Here it is right here. Student survey. Remember, it was on my desktop. I put it on my desktop. If I wasn't on my desktop, I'd come over here and open the desktop, and here it is. This is what I'm looking for, the student survey CSV. So I double click it, and it reminds me that if I upload this file, once I close this out, it'll be deleted. Not from my desktop, but from Google's server. So if you want to have it permanently be on Google's server, you have to connect this to your Google Drive. I have another video that shows how to do that. But for now, we're just going to use this one because the file is already on my computer. I don't need it to be on Google's server. And there it is now, student CSV. So this is the CSV file I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and click these 3 vertical dots, because when you click that, you can copy the file path. So I'm going to click copy path. And remember, this read CSV method is looking for a file path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in here. I'm going to type single quotes, because the file path has to go in quotations. And then I'm just going to copy, I'm just going to paste. I've already copied the file path. I'm just going to do Control V to paste it. And there it is. It's in content./studentsurvey.csv. That's the file. So there I've given it the file path that read CSV needs to import that CSV into this program. when I hit the play button again, it doesn't look like it did anything, but now I have a data frame called DF that consists of the information from my student survey. So if you want to see that, you can add another code cell here. Just click that and it'll add a code cell. And now you can refer to DF. DF is a data frame that we just created using this read_CSV. And one of the things you can do with a data frame is you can do the head and tail of the data frame to see the top and the bottom of it. So if I do df.head, so head is one of the methods of the DF data frame I just created. And then I do an open and close parenthesis. This line of code will allow me to see the top few lines of my data frame. When I run it, as you can see, this is the data frame now imported into Google Colab, so I can do all kind of stuff with this in Pandas. So now, not only is there that file version on my desktop, but I now have this version that I can play with within Python. All right. Another thing we can do is we can get a description of all the data here. DF has another, or data frames, Pandas data frames have another method called describe. So if you start typing it, it'll actually come up here. You can just click it, describe, and then open and close a parenthesis. When you run this line of code, it'll find you the averages of all the numerical value. It'll tell you how many data values there are. It just gives you a lot of information. So I'll press run here. And here you see it count. There are 5 values for age, 5 value for the number of hours worked per week. The average age is 22.8. So the average age in this 5 students is 22.8. And the average number of hours they work per week is 32 hours. I also have the standard deviation of their ages and the standard deviation of their hours, the minimum age, the minimum hours, the 25th percentile of the ages. This is the value that separates the bottom 25% of ages from the top 75%, and also the 25th percentile for hours. The median is the 50th percentile. So this is the median of the ages. Half of the students are under 20, half of the students are over 20. And this is the median number of hours. This is the 75th percentile for age and hours, and this is the maximum. So when you do that df.describe function, it gives you all the numerical values, all the numerical data. It'll give you their means and their 5-number summaries. All right. The other thing that we can do here is we can also see the bottom of the data frame by doing df.tail. So the head gives us the first 5 values and tail gives us the last 5 values. So because we only have 5 values, it's only showing the 5. So it looks like head and tail are doing the same thing here. But in reality, if you have more than 5, it's only going to show you the first 5 or so. If you want to change the number of observations that the head shows you, you can just simply type a number into that parenthesis. For instance, if I only want to see the first 2 values or the first 2 observations, I just put a 2 in there. And when I run it, it'll only give me the first 2 observations. Same thing works for tail. If you only want to see the last 2 observations, you can put a 2 in there and run it, and it shows you the last 2 observations. So you can play around with Pandas a little bit, or with Python a little bit here, but have some fun with this. This is something we're going to be getting very used to doing during the time frame of this course.